Here we go, the much awaited composting toilet unit. The components I will be using are some coconut fibre matting, piece of stainless steel, perforated stainless steel, the 200 litre plastic bin, a 50mm Hansen exhaust pipe, let's go with that, and some 32mm electrical conduit. Okay, so the first thing we need is 5 posts. The posts I make out of 32mm electrical conduit, and they create a gap between the bottom of the composting unit and the perforated stainless steel, for want of a better term, sieve. So I make them 150mm. There's no science to that. It just doesn't need to be any longer. All it needs to do is create a gap so that no solids can go through and the water can get out. I'm not going to show you how I'm going to cut these up because I use a disc grinder with a cutting blade and mine doesn't have a protective cover over it. I don't recommend doing that. If you're going to use a electric grinder, make sure yours has got all of the necessary safety parts on it. Okay, so I've got the 5 posts. Not sure if I said at the outset you needed 4 or 5, but you need 5. Next step is to mark out and cut the hole for the outlet or exhaust. You'll need your 50mm outlet Hansen flange to allow enough space for the bottom and the flange to go inside, and mark roughly where halfway at that point is. Then you'll need 60 or 64mm hole saw using the old trusty battery drill. You can use a file or a rasp or anything to clean up the hole. The flange needs a reasonably clean fitting in order to seal it. This is where kids come in handy. Get them to climb inside the tub and hold it while you screw it in. I'll have a play with that without you guys watching and show you when I've got it done. And there we go. 150mm outlet. Now the reason I go with 50mm, which is pretty big, is because you don't want blockages down there. So that 50mm is about as big as you can get, and that's what you want. Now the posts are to keep the stainless steel grill off the bottom, so that no solids get through and park up down there. So they will go, as he sticks his in there, they will go at 4 equal place distances, or reasonably equal distances around the outside, and then 1 in the middle, so that the stainless steel grill doesn't collapse or sag in the middle. I use a standard PVC cement for that. Sort of plumbing supplies or Mitre 10 again, Bunnings will have that, or any local hardware store. Okay, so plan A in the use of PVC solvent cement in order to fix the posts to the bottom of the composting unit didn't work. So now we're going to move on to the use of the Sally's Storm Seal and give that a go. I've also checked how flexible my stainless steel grill is that's going to go over the top, and it's pretty flexible, so I'm going to go with quite a few more posts. I'll probably end up with 10 in there. I'm going to cut them out to size, get the Sally's Storm sealant on the bottom of them and stick them in place, and then let's see how we get on. Okay, here we are with the posts in place. I'm much happier with how the Sally's Storm Seal all clear product worked as far as sticking the posts down. Now one thing that I did miss out from the list of original components was the vent. The next thing to be fitted is the vent, and then the grill, and we'll go from there. Here's the vent just sitting in place. It's a piece of 85mm downpipe with a vent on the top. Now what we want to do is have as much air going through as much of the composting unit as possible, or at least have it available to it. You can drill holes. I prefer to use a slot type approach. I'll be using the trusty battery disc grinder to cut some slots in it, and that's what I think of the Marley's gold cement. And once I've cut those slots in, it can be fitted in place, and then we can cut the grill. A little clogging of them and still allow plenty of air in. Something like that. Next step, the steel grate. So I bought this piece of perforated stainless steel off RS Components in New Zealand online. It's readily available. As you can see, it's not quite big enough. We're looking for consistency, not perfection here in my case. As long as it can't let anything through that's going to block the drain, it should be fine. What I'm going to do now is mark freehand with a vivid marker where I need to cut it to make it work, and once I finish that I will cut it to size and give it a trial fitment, and you'll see after that we then have to cut a slot for the air vent, because that has to go all the way to the bottom. Anyway, I'll finish doing this, I'll cut it to size, and then we'll be on to the next step. A couple of truisms or helpful hints here. I ended up using parts of both of my pieces of perforated stainless steel just to get a reasonable fit. Just remember, when you mark it out, where the grill fits may not be the same aperture as the top. So maybe a cardboard cutout would be a good idea. But anyway, you see it's not perfect. I don't think it needs to be. Inside and underneath there around the posts we're going to be putting coir matting, coir fibres, and I may wire those pieces together just to stop them moving. Anyway, next step is to take our air vent and cut a slot for it so that it can go all the way down to the ground. Obviously mark it out first and then cut it to size. Again, remember, take into account the curve of the tank, so that when you put your saddles on at the end, you're not missing the hole. Getting pretty close to final assembly. So I have a mixture of high density coconut matting and coconut fibre, which I bought from the hardware store. I used a mat at the very bottom of the composting unit below the lowest point of the outlet, so that there's no accumulation of compost matter or anything else below that outlet pipe, and then fill the rest of the area reasonably compactly from the bottom of the tank to the point where the stainless steel grill sits with the coconut fibre. That creates a filter, and also allows for, if you have tiger worms or any form of material in there, organic material, that can live in that space. So we're getting close to final assembly. I'll be cutting these up just with a pair of scissors, putting them in place, and I'll step you through that final assembly process. There's the first couple of crisscross layers of high density coir mat, and with the coconut fibre as well. It's just a case of putting the air vent on, putting the steel in place, and making a lid. We make our lids out of old recycled Oregon, but put it together and show you the finished product. Finally, here we are, one new composting unit, less the lid. Don't forget the lid, very important. 50mm outlet, key. These are the key points to making a composting unit, and a successful one. And more time now and more care now will make it perhaps work a little bit more successfully. Here's my rudimentary grid that I ended up using cable ties or zip ties to hold the extra bits together. Coir mat and coconut fibres underneath that, aeration tube, and that's it. Doesn't get more complicated than that. Pipe in the top, or if you've got a long drop, you can drop straight into it. As you know from earlier videos, I've got a macerating toilet, so we just drain that straight into the top, and that should last, well, anything up to 3 or 4 years for a family, because everything drains away and it composts very, very quickly. Never be afraid to throw in some sawdust or other organic matter. Peat moss is very, very good. The last thing you want though is for it to get clogged. So as I say, more time now, more care now, will save you some very, very unpleasant tasks should it get blocked up. And that is how we make our composting units. We run 2, so when one fills up we leave it for a year and run the other one, then empty the one, and when the next one fills up we rotate them. Hope you've enjoyed this one. Please feel free and encourage others to sign up to our YouTube channel, and enjoy the rest of the videos. Cheers.